This is the only Elegoo slicer tutorial that you're going to need. This is going to be a full beginner's guide on showing you how to connect your Elegoo 3D printers to the Elegoo slicer, and I'm going to show you how to bring in files and how to print them on your 3D printers. So let's get started. Step number one, what we first need to do is go on over to Google in a web browser and search for Elegoo slicer. You kind of have to be careful because there's multiple types of slicers for Elegoo 3D printers. What we need to do is make sure you're not downloading the satellite 3D slicer. That's for other types. We want the FDM one. And the page should look exactly like this. You just click on 3D printer softwares and then choose if you have a Windows or Mac, and then download the file, and essentially it'll walk you through setting it all up on your computer. Once you've installed the software here, Elegoo Slicer, this is what the app icon should look like right here. See it? And then all you have to do is double click and open it. I just want to make sure that you have this on your computer. There's been a lot of questions on how to get this on there. Chances are when you open it, it's going to do an update. So what we first want to do here is we want to click on New Project. And this is what the slicer looks like. If you've been on Cura before, this is probably very similar. It's because it's a version of that. All right, so then step number two, what we need to do is click on the Device tab and make sure that your 3D printer is connected. Mine already is. My advice to you, if you don't have it connected, what you should do is visit the link in the description. I have a specific video on how to connect 3D printers to the Elegoo slicer. It's low-key a little confusing, and I made a dedicated video to it. So once we have our 3D printer connected to the Elegoo slicer, what we can do here is click on the Prepare tab. At the top here, there's going to be a series of tabs, and what we're going to do is we're going to move forward with the process of 3D printing models based on these tabs. First, we're going to do the Prepare tab where we figure out everything about the model or the STL file. And then we're going to move to the Preview tab to make sure all the settings look good. It's going to tell us how long the print takes, how much filament it uses, etc. And then we're going to essentially make sure the device and everything is figured out. And then we're going to print our file. So that's going to be the series of process here. So what we need to do is we need to find a file. And a lot of times, you know, some of the other slicers have like a built-in marketplace where you can find files. Elegoo Slicer does not have that. So what I advise you to do is go on over to your web browser again, and you can go over to like something like Maker World, or you can go over to like Thingiverse. That's another huge one. There's printables. And what you need to do essentially is find the file that you're looking to 3D print, right? You know, if you're brand new to this, what I highly advise you doing is just printing something extremely simple like a Benchy. A Benchy is that boat. So if we search for Benchy, here's the boat, right? It has 87,000 downloads here, and just download it. And then what we're going to do here is have the file go back to Elegoo Slicer here. Click on the plus button. The plus button is right here. Essentially, if you hover your mouse over any of these buttons up here, it says Add. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a file. I have this file here. This is a like little monster Labubu. I'm sure you've heard of them. They're like kind of going viral. So then it's going to upload and load your file, essentially your STF file or your .3mf file. And this one in particular opened up 3 different plates. And that may seem confusing, but you'll realize once you start doing 3D prints that this actually happens quite often. So what you need to do here is click on the plate that you want to 3D print, because I have multiple plates here, and essentially it's just choosing one at a time because obviously we only have one of them. And at any point, what you want to do is you want to left click, and you can left click and drop and drag if you want to move it around, and then you can right click and hold it, and you can also move this. And also you can zoom in on your mouse to get a closer look. As you can see here, I'm trying to move it around. So if I right click, I can move this and kind of center this right here. And then this is essentially the file that I'm going to be printing. It's like a little monster looking action figure. And what you do is you put all of these together. This is kind of what happens when you have multiple plates. You can essentially print things in different colors or different sizes, etc. If these were all one color, you could have them on one plate. Hopefully that makes sense without becoming too complicated. But we're just going to concentrate on the one plate right now. And what I'm going to do here is actually, I'm going to click one of these and right click and delete just to get this off the plate. So now I just have one file. I just want to make this as simple as possible for us to understand. So this is the file that we're going to be 3D printing, right? And it should come up here. It gives you a display of what it looks like. So now we're going to go over to the Prepare tab and start going over all these settings. And this is a beginner's guide, guys. So like, I'm not going to go over everything. This is essentially just to kind of get you going. I do have a super in-depth guide coming soon with the Elegoo Slicer. It's probably going to be like an hour long where we kind of just go through everything. But this is going to be the beginner's guide to get you 3D printing and going. So what we want to first do is choose your printer. So I have the video. If you haven't figured out how to choose your printers yet, you can actually choose other printers like the Bamboo Lab printer, etc. Chances are you'll have issues printing on the Bamboo Lab. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my Elegoo Centauri Carbon, and then I'm going to save that. Sometimes settings will prompt up and tell you, hey, these settings changed because the 3D printer changed. I always just kind of go with the flow because these slicers really kind of know what they're doing, so I would just kind of go with what they advise. That's my advice. Next, what we need to do is choose the bed type. You know, chances are if you chose the 3D printer, it'll automatically choose what bed type comes with that 3D printer, so it kind of knows. Just kind of go with the flow of what it's telling you. And then as far as the filament, that's the next section. What you need to do is choose what type of filament you're going to be printing with. And I'm going to be printing with just PLA. So I could do like a generic PLA. It says Elegoo PLA in here. But what you could do is just kind of go to add and remove filament. And then you can actually, a prompt will come up to add filament types. You can do that as well. But honestly, if you choose Elegoo PLA, most PLAs are kind of all the same, if we're being honest. And it will work, right? So here's the prompt to add PLAs, and what you can do is do a custom one and then click on Create New. I'm not going to do it just because all PLAs essentially the same. I'm just going to go with the Elegoo PLA, even though it's like Sunlu or something. And then as far as all the settings down here, what I would advise as a beginner is to totally just to leave all of this the way it is. Because the slicers are really good at what they do. They're going to have all these settings just pre-aligned and pre-figured out. One of them that you might want to look at is the support tab. That's really the only one you have to worry about. So click on the support tab, take a look at your 3D file, and look if it has any overhangs. So we can tell on this file that I do have overhangs. You can tell up here, right here, there's going to be overhangs, and the 3D printer cannot print overhangs very well. So what I would do is essentially click on Enable Support, and then there's a couple different types of supports, right? There's normal, and then there's tree. I would advise only using the tree or the normal auto. Until you get a little better, I have videos on how to manually add supports, but chances are we're probably not there yet. So then choose the tree, and then that's essentially it for the Prepare tab. And that's, you know, we're just choosing the printer, the bed type, the PLA, that's the style of the filament that you're printing with, and then the supports. That's what we're going to go with. And then what we're going to do is go on over to these tabs over here. So what we want to do here is we're going to move to these tabs. And I know this might feel a little confusing if you're an ultra beginner, but I promise it's not that bad. It's just like a lot of softwares. It comes with a learning curve, right? What we need to do is make sure that we left click on our file here of the model. And then you'll notice that a lot of these buttons become available, right? And if you unhighlight, a lot of them don't. So what happens here is you need to highlight the actual file to be able to work on it. So if we scroll over some of these, if you just leave your mouse hovering over it, it will tell you what it does. This adds a plate. This adds another file. Say if I wanted to add another, like multiple files, different files, I would do that and then just click on add and upload it. See how that prompts up there? And then what we can also do here, there's a bunch of things. There's auto orientate. That'll essentially, you can click that. That'll use the slicer's like brain power to know what the best way to auto orientate the file is, if that makes sense. And then the next one here is you can move it. If I click on move, I can click here. I can move this around. I can move it up, etc. And if at any point you kind of like mess with a setting, you can click this back button. I'm just going to keep clicking back until it's back to normal. So that's the move feature. And then we also have rotate. You can rotate this. Click on rotate. I can like change this setting here. But if you're a total beginner, this is like not beginner stuff. Just remember that. And again, you can just go over these buttons here, rotate. Scale. Scale is the thing that I want to get to, because this is probably what you're going to be wanting to use immediately, because a lot of times what you're trying to do is change the sizing of the model itself. So if I put this in the middle and I click on scale, what we can do is resize the file with this feature. And you can do it in two different ways. You can do it in millimeters. See how it says millimeters here? And this has all the dimensions of the coordinates of like the length, the width, and the height, right? So if we do the scaling here, this is a percentage. So I could scale it at a percentage. Say if I did it at 120%, it's going to increase. Or I could do it at a millimeter. Say if you had like a specific file and you knew you needed a certain size based on the millimeters, that would do it as well. So if I did 100 millimeters, give it a second, that's going to increase the size. So I'm going to click back a couple times just because I don't need this sized like that. But that's how you resize models in the Elegoo slicer. Hopefully that makes sense. That's going to be basically a lot of the most basic stuff. There's also another feature in here a lot of people like to use. So you can lay it on its face. You can do meshing, painting. Essentially, if you're trying to do different colors on the model, some of this stuff's going to come into play, like painting. The text is actually, adding text is really popular as well. Say if I wanted to turn this little boo-boo around and add text to it, what I can do here is I can put someone's name on here. A lot of times when I'm 3D printing like toys for kids like this, what I'll do is I'll put their name on it. And say if their name was Bobby, what I could do is I can change the text, the style of it, and then I can change the height. Essentially any setting you could think of when it comes to text, I can change it here. The height, I can sit here and do this and just increase the size over and over and over. And you can't really see it that well. It's going to be, this text is kind of weird because it's on a rounded surface. But if I were to click on this, you know, it depends the surface. So it'll 3D print that though. It'll have some issues with it that has an overhang. What I would probably personally do here, I'm going to click back here. I would tend to try to keep text on flat surfaces. Like if we go here, this is a lot better. And if I added text here and clicked here, right there, and all you do, that's how you add text to the file here. So if I did Bobby again, you can change everything. So you'll just have to mess around with it, and it's really easy. And I find that it's actually it's pretty cool when you're 3D printing things, especially for people, that you can add text to it. I have a specific video on that as well, how to add text on files in the different slicers. I'm just going to keep clicking back so I don't mess up this file, because I don't particularly need text on this file. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the last feature here, you can click on this one, and this will tell you measurements. So if I click on the measure tab here, what you can do is click on selection 1, and it'll tell you measurements. Like if you put your mouse on areas, it'll tell you measurements of it. So if I click there and click on measure, it'll show you the dimensions of it. So hopefully that makes sense. Or what you can do is do like a starting point. Say if I start here and then I end here, it'll tell you the measurement of it going side to side, which is extremely helpful. Say if you're like making a part that fits in a specific area. I've done a lot of this and it's actually extremely helpful. So then what we do here is, I'm gonna get out of here. So those are all the buttons, and the assembly is essentially, you can do like assembly stuff where like you put it in pieces. Again, you're kind of just gonna have to like really kind of deep dive into how this slicer, Elegoo slicer, works and get better with it. And I actually just added to this file here. I put this little keychain hanger here. What you can do a lot of times too is, say if your file's here, what you can do is right click and you can add things. Like say if I wanted to add a cube or like a cone or a disc, like say if I had a cube, I can just add this cube, and I can actually, you know, I have videos on how to do this, but you can actually add like objects to your file, and you can like build onto them and stuff. That's how I added this little keychain thing here. So what I did was essentially just added a primitive torus loop, and then what I did was I'm trying to think here, if I rotate, what I could do here is if I flip it up, see I can flip it up, and then I can also swing it like this. And then what you can do is you can connect it to the file itself. So I have videos on that as well. But there's really cool things you can do. You can like build your own stuff in this slicer. And what you can do is you can highlight things, you can drop and drag and move them, and then you can right click, you can also like copy them, you can clone them, you can fill the entire bed with copies of it. Say if you were like mass 3D printing a ton of files, you could just fill the bed. That's really common to do with things. Like when I sell things, what I'll do is I'll fill the entire bed. You can clone that, you can center it, you can mirror it, you can delete it, you can add another part to it, you can export it. There's so many things to be done here. I'm going to delete it because I don't need it. Same with this one here. Drop and drag it over here, right click, delete. I don't need that. And I mean, you could bring multiple files in here and merge them as well. So then what once your file is ready to 3D print, send to the printer, what you need to do here is essentially, we need to make sure that your device, your 3D printer is connected. And if you click on the device tab here with Elegoo machines, your 3D printer should come up here, and it says my connection's failed with this 3D printer. Let's refresh this. Sometimes this happens, you know what I mean? Sometimes it has issues, but if you're having issues with your device not being connected, what you need to do is go back to the Prepare tab, click on this Wi-Fi connection, and connect there. Again, that video will be, and I'll throw a link in the description just because it's a whole dedicated 5-minute video on how to do that, and I don't want to bog down this Elegoo slicer tutorial for beginners. So now what we can do here is we can click on the preview tab. That is the next stage in this process. And what this preview tab is going to do is it's essentially going to use the slicer's like CPU and processing to figure out how it's going to be 3D printed. So as you can see here, it added a bunch of supports, and that's good because it has overhangs and we need supports. So, and there's multiple types of supports, remember. These are the tree version. I find that these are the easiest to break away naturally. And in this preview tab, it gives you all this information about the 3D print going to the 3D printer. Like for example, if we go down here, it gives you, like, it shows you essentially everything that it's doing. Like if there's a brim, if there's a bridge, if there's inner walls, how much filament it used. What I tend to look at is I go down here and I look at the total filament used. That's kind of like helpful sometimes to know. And then also the total time. This file takes 3 hours and 30 minutes. And sometimes what I'll also do is there's a tool over here. This is the layer height tool. So if you left click and hold it, you can drop and drag what it's going to look like as it 3D prints. And if you go up here, you can see all the G code kind of change over here in the right hand side. What happens is as it comes up, this is what it's going to look like as it 3D prints. See how it's doing that? And you can kind of look at it. It's kind of a cool feature to look at. And what you can also do is you can change the colors. You can change the colors as it prints up. Like say if I want to do like half of this black or the middle of it green. A lot of people don't even know that's a super cool feature. Again, I have a video on that as well. You'll just have to search it on my channel. I try to do all these videos to help people out. You know what I mean? So then once this is ready to send to the 3D printer and you looked at it, the time is good, it looks good, you have your supports. I tend to double check everything. You know, I'll go back to the Prepare tab because what you can do is go back there and I'll double check the printer, the plate, the type of PLA or the type of material you're printing in, and make sure your supports are good. A lot of these other settings, I just kind of allow the slicer to figure out just because that's what it does. You know what I mean? It uses its brain power to figure all that out. Then I'll go back to the preview tab here, and once I have totally figured out we are ready to send to the 3D printer, your Elegoo printer, what I do is I come up here and click on print. And it's kind of going to walk you through this process. I will say this is a little different than some of the other slicers just because Elegoo, all these processes are a little different with different 3D printers. So then what I would do here is I would go to I would click upload and print and then check what you need. You know, do you need a time lapse? Do you need a heated bed leveling? I would suggest doing both of those and then choose if you have a textured build plate or a smooth build plate. And again, if you have the Centauri Carbon, if you flip it over, it's going to be the smooth versus the textured. And then all you have to do is click on upload. Sometimes what I'll see is it'll have an issue kind of sending it to the 3D printer. Like this comes up quite often for me and it's an error. This file has been transferred, but some unknown errors occurred. This was kind of like a holdup for me and I had to figure it out. But what I do is I just click OK. And again, maybe you don't see this, maybe you do. So it'll throw that error, but what I'll tend to do is just go over to the device tab, and then this should be your 3D printer right here. And it should connect live. Sometimes what I'll have to do is I'll have to go like turn off the Elegoo machine, then turn it back on just to make sure that this is all live. A lot of times if you click the play button, it should have a live feed on the video. But the file that we just sent over here should be in the history over here. So I just sent this right here. And what I can do here is I can highlight it, I can click, and then I can click on Start Print. And this will essentially kind of like manually send it to the 3D printer. And this is kind of like all like the print history and memory. That's what has been sent to the 3D printer. Sometimes on this preview tab, it just doesn't send there automatically. But then again, sometimes it does. There you have it, guys. This is the only Elegoo slicer tutorial that you're going to need ever, right? And again, I have a more advanced version. What you'll have to do is check the channel. I have a bunch of multiple tutorials that are more or less split up as well. This channel is aimed at helping people do things with 3D printers. I'm 3D Print Dude. Please consider subscribing and hit me up in the comments if you have any further questions. And I'll throw a bunch of cool links in the description as well down below. Without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next one.